Okay, we are recording. Welcome. It's Crissy Rollins here with the wonderful, amazing Joy Askew, and we are bringing you part 4 of a conversation that we started a couple months back around the hero's journey, and more specifically, your hero's journey. So we've been exploring over the past few sessions what the hero's journey is. We did a basic introduction in part 1. You can go back and catch the replays on all of these, by the way. I'll make sure that there's a link underneath here so that you can find them super easy. But we introduced the conversation around exploring what the hero's journey is and bringing the concept into our own personal lives by looking at our lives as our own individual hero's journey. Part 2, we got into discussing the call to adventure, that little nudge that gets you started into this hero's journey that we're all a part of. And then last time we talked about crossing the threshold, finding that line in the sand of which there's a tipping point of no going back, and what happens as you cross that threshold, what's found on the other side of the threshold. And today we're going to be continuing the conversation in part 4 with what's beyond the threshold. So now that you've crossed that threshold, you're living in this new life experience of your hero's journey. What is found there? And what is found there is transformation and treasure. That's the focus of today's conversation. So I know, Joy, you're the one who had this conversation on your heart to bring to the table at the very beginning and have beautifully crafted an outline for us to follow throughout the series. So what comes to your mind when we think about this concept of transformation and treasure?
Well, what came to me when I was thinking about what to share about this stage in the journey, and I share from my own experience, because that's really, I feel like that's the only thing I can share. I can repeat what others have said about it, but that's not really the type of sharing that I'm talking about. So with my experience crossing this threshold was, for me, when it happened was when I made a commitment, like with my whole heart, my whole everything, to truth. And, big truth, like absolute truth, but also relative truth, my own truth, and living both as much as I could, and in big ways. And what was really, really important, I found out, was the tiny little ways in which we have a choice to be truthful or not. And that includes, like, kind of, it's not necessarily lying, but lying by omission. Like, if there's something that that is truth and you do not share it with others. And what comes to mind is keeping the bushel basket over your head and not shining your light. But it's the tiny, tiny little ways, the everyday little things. When you're relating to others, when you're discussing yourself with yourself, especially that. And what I found out is the more truth I live and honor and own, the more I transform. And it's like this just incredible transformation, literally. Um, so the two go hand in hand. The transformation is brought about by truth, by owning it, and by living it. And then you find that the treasure that you're rewarded with is the very same thing. It's truth. The truth of who you are, what you are, and what this life is all about. And you bring that back to the world, into the ordinary. You bring this extraordinary truth, this spirit, which I believe is the Holy Spirit. You bring it through you into the world by living it. And in that way, we are able to manifest heaven on earth through us.
I love everything that you just said. And I really have a sincere desire in my heart for everybody who just heard what you said to have the ears to really be able to hear everything that you just said, because everything that you just said, literally and metaphorically, I guess speaking, was dripping with truth. And I could really relate to a lot of what you said, and I'm going to break it down and unpack it just a bit so we can explore it more, because that's what we came here to do, right?
It's so yummy. It's so
Yes,
good.
it's delicious.
It's literally good. You know, goodness. And that's why it's so yummy.
Yes, for sure. Gosh, there's so much that you said that I want to touch on, but I'm gonna address it kind of backwards. I love this imagery that you bring to the table of how living your truth out loud. Actually, no, I'm not going to reverse it. I'm going to start at the very beginning and what you said, how you unpacked it down. That when you made that commitment to truth, and how it was, not just truth as in, is this true? Is this not true? But a bigger truth, an ultimate truth. But along with that, your truth. What is true to you? And I think that this is an important differentiation to make, because I think a lot of us, whenever we're seeking a better quality of life or a more peaceful, settled life experience, we can look to what is the truth and look to follow and live by what we decide to put our stock in as being the truth before we have that direct experience, right? And what can end up happening is that we can lose ourselves in pursuit of the truth, trying to become and do and be a certain way in order to unlock what truths that we've put our stock in, what we believe they'll deliver on the other side. Where is that treasure? Where is that reward? Why are we going through all of this suffering and transformation and challenges along this journey? Like, what's the payoff? Where's the good stuff on the other side? I think typically is kind of the human way that we start to look to. And in pursuing these truths, because we want to have this experience, we can cut off and deny ourselves and what feels right and true to us along the way, or get tripped up in living into these truths because of those bushel baskets that you mentioned being placed on top of us. And I know exactly what you're talking about with that, in the limitations, the doubtful stories, the non-truths that get placed upon us, or that get set onto us, that limit us from seeing all of our fullness and all of our truth and all of our fullest expressions. Those bushel baskets that damper our light, that keep us from shining so bright, we can get lost underneath those if we're only pursuing this bigger absolute truth. So I think you're making a really cool connection and discovery, connecting it to, it's not just about this absolute bigger truth. It's also about your truth. And I know, and I know that you know, that the real magic, the real yumminess, the real goodness happens when those two truths can align. When you
Mm-hmm.
can recognize and settle into and learn yourself and know yourself and discover within yourself your own truth, your own knowing, to the point that your truth lines up with this bigger truth. I think that that's really where the magic happens, and that's where that flow can happen, and that's where you begin to be that conduit and that channel for the divine to come through you outwardly into this world, where you can birth God out into life, where we humans can do God's work through our human expression and bringing God into our current day life experience. Because if you notice, not everybody's got to bring God into the situation for you to start to have that harmonious heaven experience. It's just you that needs to connect to it. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I love that's coming to this conversation and through this conversation is that union, that expression, that magic, that fullness, that goodness, it can't happen with just the truth, and it can't happen with just
Mm-hmm.
you. It's like the two have to come together, or we'll say when the two come together, we can unlock and experience a fuller, richer, more fulfilling life
What
experience.
comes to me right now is um, Jesus saying, "I and my Father are one."
Mm.
It's it's both. It's both together.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Like we are, I often say we're like the vessel of which the spirit lives through and is expressed outwardly in the world. So without our physical form giving shape to this unseen essence, this unseen energy, this unseen life force, this undescribable quality that we often call God that comes through us, we see what happens with the shell, this outer form, without that spirit coming through it. And we can see what that spirit does without that outer shell to express it. We humans have a hard time tapping into it and connecting to it and being able
Yeah,
to make it tangible.
and see that here, here are our two truths. We're both human and we're divine, right?
Yes.
And neither one. I mean, we're both at all times, but until we own both, they're not made real. It's like in the Velveteen Rabbit, you know. It's like they don't become real until you love them. you you have to own both aspects, but until you do, really, it's there, but it's still in potential form, and it's up to us to choose to potentiate the divinity that we are into the world. Um,
And to bring this back to the hero's journey, what I'm getting the sense of now, it's like this divine energy and essence that's all around us needs that vessel in order to express a hero
mhm,
in a situation. It is that union that allows the hero to come to form. So if we're looking at this as a hero's journey and we're not self-identifying as the hero, understanding that it is this alignment of our truth with this bigger truth, or this bigger truth with our truth, whichever way we look at it, that alignment that allows that hero to come through. And I don't know that I've said truer words when I think back on my own experience, because I certainly didn't self-identify as a hero or somebody who is exceptional or special or even adequate, quite frankly. I thought that I was less than enough in pretty much every way that I could possibly look at myself. So it would never occur to me that a hero would be expressed out of my form. However, when I just got committed to the same thing that you mentioned, committed to testing out, because what I've learned along the way is that truth is a direct experience, and whatever you are directly experiencing is forming and shaping your truth. So if you want to have a different experience in life, perhaps look at the truths that you're living by and see where you need to make some adjustments. So glad we're recording this stuff, because there's some good stuff coming out of me today. I just got to say, I feel very honored to be the messenger for this particular delivery. But as I aligned my truth with this bigger truth, and didn't just recognize it, didn't just acknowledge it, but actually exemplified it, embodied it, dared to express it outwardly, live it out loud, again, paying attention to how truthful I'm being, even when nobody else is involved in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
That did lead to a transformation
Yeah.
for myself that allowed me to see myself. And maybe I still struggle to see Crissy as the one who does any of it, which is why I can tout Crissy the way that I do, because I'm quite amazed at what comes out of her, because I've been inside of her and telling myself that she's not amazing for so long. So whenever the amazing stuff happens, it's like, wow, look at that. It's in that process of realizing I'm not living by Crissy's rules anymore. I'm not doing it Crissy's way anymore. I'm actually doing it in a way that feels very true to whatever it is that's happening inside of Crissy, and it's matching up to this external on the outside. And in that place, I was more bold. I am more bold, more daring, more outwardly expressed, but still in a way that's very true to me, and isn't, like how some other people express their truth outwardly. So what I'm finding is that when we can align those truths, our own personal truth with that bigger truth, it allows for transformation to take place. It allows for us to have that different firsthand experience, a different firsthand truth, and become more in touch with the truth that's within us, and to more accurately express that outwardly. And that embodiment, that experience, that fullness, that goodness that that I become a part of, in allowing that flow and that experience to go beyond Crissy's experience to this divine experience, that in itself is absolutely a treasure and a gift. And I know a lot of great philosophers and new thought leaders that would argue, like, that's the reward, is the desire to do it over again, and the desire to do it over again, and the desire to do it over again. So when we can stop looking at the treasure being this final resting place, and to understand the treasure is in the experience, and yours to unpack from every experience, just allowed me to play a whole different game, so I could stop thinking that there's this end destination, and could really just relax into this ongoing unfoldment, this ongoing transformation, this ongoing delivery of treasure that sometimes is found outwardly, but is always found inwardly whenever I line up my truth with this bigger truth, and really allow myself to embrace and embody this hero's journey that I'm on. So now my challenges are just part of the journey, and not something that's here to take me out or a sign that I'm doing anything wrong. In fact, the fact that they're showing up lets me know that I'm headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
If
and
I'm
they're
following my truth, right?
they're here to make us wiser and stronger and more resilient and more of who we really are. You know, they're here to unveil our true selves to ourselves. They're each thing that we come up against is an opportunity for us to actually, really, what it's all about is to know God more,
Mm-hmm.
and see how amazing and powerful and, just, what's
This
the
is
word, ineffable. You can't even describe it.
Without a doubt. And even us being so lovely to take our time and have this conversation and put all of our words to it and share our experience, it's still not enough. It's still not going to do it for you. Just watching this, just listening to this, it might spark some ahas. It might get you thinking differently on the inside, but you do not get what we're talking about. You don't get to unleash it, unfold it in your life unless you engage with it and you bring it into your own life, because you are your own personal portal for everything to come through in your life. And it's something that we can't do for you, but we can champion you on. We can do our best to describe it. We can reassure you that all is indeed well and that it's okay to relax and, kind of let down that guard. And what is so tricky about this journey is that some of the bushel baskets that you have to remove are actually causing you to listen to this conversation in a completely different way than what you could be hearing it from. So my point in this is saying that if you just are willing to commit, if you've had that call to adventure and you are understanding these concepts of this point of no return, once you hit that point, there's no turning back. There really is no going back with ease. There's no going back with fulfillment. There's no going back with continued peace. It will only be disruption. It can only be disruption because your truth is going to be clashing up with the truth of life, or the way that you're living your truth expressed is going to be clashing up with it. And it will quite literally agitate the hell right out of you until you are tired of fighting and you can take no more and you lay in surrender. And then you realize that that thing you are fighting, that thing you are pushing against, that was the very thing that you were trying to be freed of. It's a subtle thing. That's why it's found in those little nuances. It's found in those little details. It's found when nobody else is in the room and you get honest in a way that you aren't typically honest with yourself or other people. Just get honest. And don't be afraid of bringing more negative stuff into your life if your honesty isn't all peaches and cream. Don't be afraid of what it could possibly mean about you, because the only way you're going to free yourself of it, the only way you can lift that bushel basket off is if you start looking at it. And it doesn't mean you have to pull them all off in one day. It doesn't mean anything like that. It's just, if this is of interest to you, if you want more treasure, more fulfillment, more enrichment, a more enhanced life experience,
and more freedom.
More freedom.
That is what this is all about.
That's it. Freeing yourself. The liberation.
Jesus told us the truth will set you free. And he was talking about the freedom that he experienced to, perform miracles and to create a level of consciousness in this world that would, elevate those who had the ears to hear and the eyes to see to his level. And, oh, my dog is having a dream. Oh, he's going, oh. Oh, my goodness. But, and also, Carl Jung said those who look within will basically be set free, and those who don't will basically be in chains the rest of their lives. I'm not verbatim there, but and I remember, Crissy, the day I made that commitment to truth, I was with you, and I said, because we share so freely, we're so truthful and honest with each other. We We have been from the very beginning. It's such a blessing. Um, and I wanted to be able to be that open and honest and truthful about everything with my husband, who, since I met you, he and I reunited after a 9.5 year separation. And I wanted our new relationship to be on a totally different level of consciousness. And it has been. And the commitment that I made that day to myself, because I realized, like, why don't I just do that? Why don't I at least set that as a goal for myself? Even if it's really painful, even if it's really embarrassing, even if it's really scary, if I rely on this love that I know that is between us, to, that I have your back and you have mine always and forever, no matter what. Um, and, and just do my best to be truthful about everything. What will happen. And what has happened has been that remarkable transformation, and not only in myself, but even the people around me. They're also they're changing, and for the better. For the better, people do change for the worse. I know I did prior to this other change. Um, so it's truth is light, and light heals, and light illuminates, and they say sunshine is the best disinfectant. The old wise saying, but it is true about our lives too. To be, lovingly honest with ourselves about ourselves, and to be gifted with others that we can also be truthful with, is it's probably the greatest growth tool that I have ever come across.
Without a doubt, for sure. And it's been awesome to have our friendship and support through these years as we've learned to be more honest in our expressions outwardly with each other, with our other friends, in our with our significant others, with our family members, our children, and just most importantly with ourselves, because that's really where it begins, is within me. When I was committed within myself, I couldn't sit by and let myself continue to not be honest. And we are in a society that does not have the best example on how to be honest and compassionate at the same time, and how to be honest and empowered in your vulnerability. And this is part of the reason why I felt called to create the Empathic Healers course, to show in a very practical, tangible way how to be empowered by your truth and how to express it in a way that's still compassionate and sincere and passive amongst a bunch of people who take a more aggressive approach in enforcing their truth onto other people, that makes more passive people, like the people who are usually drawn to these kind of conversations, hide our truth and tuck our truth back away and conform to their truth, or feel just not seen or acknowledged or recognized or valued or heard, really. So being able to make that commitment within yourself, it will start a revolution and an evolution within yourself. At least that's what it did to me.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere within me took a hold of this concept and refused to let go of it. And I'm so very, very grateful
You know why
that,
you refused? Because it's truth.
yeah,
You know, those are the
can't
things that
deny.
stick. The truth sticks. You know,
Yeah.
that's the things that, because I was thinking about along my path, I've tried so many different things, you know, and what I found is that those that were not my truth fell away.
Mm.
You know, the things that have stuck have not only stuck but have become really powerful. Um, Meditation, prayer, truth, you know, love, these things, faith and hope. Um, you know, you don't need all these bells and whistles. You you just need these truths, you
Mhm.
know, that that really are our divine inheritance. They're they're our legacy as children of God, and it's up to us to to bring forward that inheritance and leave one of our own. You know, um, that's that's how that's how heaven will be revealed. That it is right here.
I'm with you on this, and thinking about this idea of treasure being this physical reward, or this physical, this is the way us humans typically think about things. We go to imagery and got to see, touch, feel, have it be real, something that you hold. Otherwise, it's just a concept, right? So in thinking about this, the treasures, what I have learned over the years is that when we think about manifestation and we think about things coming into physical form, there's a process that happens. You can just look at anything in your life. This is what's behind the scenes with anything that comes into physical form. It always starts with a concept. It starts with that thought, with that idea, with that
Mm-hmm.
notion. And the more energy that you put towards it, the more that you talk about it, the more that you act as if that thing's going to happen, the more that you make choices lining up to have that become part of a physical reality, whether we're ordering a pizza for lunch, or if we're making a child, or if we're, creating a business endeavor or something like that, working towards a goal, schooling, education, whatever. You take action as if it's a possibility, as if it's inevitable, as if it's an obvious next thing that's going to come. You've gotten the order placed on the phone for the pizza place. You've gotten the confirmation from the doctor that you're pregnant. You've got the handshake from the bank that's giving you the funding to bring your thing forward, right? You make moves as if that thing is happening before it happens. And then eventually, if it's meant to be, it comes about in physical form. So when we're trying to create more rewards or more treasure or more of the physical expression of our good fortune, of our truth, of our God expressed in this world, of our being taken care of and having all that we need, if we want more of that physical evidence, it doesn't happen first and then we line up and start to behave as if. It comes on the other side
Mm-hmm.
of going through that process of knowing it, of believing it before you see it, before it comes into full physical fruition. And I think part of the problem, one of the things that we're healing ourselves from as a society, is that we have somehow forgotten that manifestation process. We've somehow forgotten the unseen process, and we've held so tightly to what we are seeing out there that we believe that that's the truth, that that's all that there is and all that's possible and all that will be, because this is all that's currently happening right now. If it's happening right now, it's going to continue to happen. If it's not happening right now, it's not happening in the future. And we have cut off and denied ourselves recognition of the unseen process that happens along the way. Now, all the working components of that unseen process are fully aware that they're showing up and doing their part. You know, the people who made the building before you went and shopped in it are fully aware that it used to not be there and that there was a lot of work that put into it, right? So as we are embracing our hero's journey and we are aligning our truths and we're moving forward, it's important to recognize that you have to break yourself free from looking around and seeing that physical evidence there already, because you're looking for something that's on its way, not something that has already been. Because if it had already been, we wouldn't be in this big old tangled mess to begin with. We would already be in our space of fulfillment, or so we think, right? So in understanding that, then when we look at this treasure, when we look at miracles happening, it's so important to understand that in order for miracles to occur, in order for the non-physical to manifest into the physical, in order for this to happen, there has to be conditions of a miracle being needed. And that's just the part that you are probably in right now. So as you start doing it and you look around and you're like, I don't see the fruits of my labor. I don't see my treasure. I just spoke my truth and now I'm in a worse situation, right? Or so it appears to be, and not my liberated state. Recognize that that is being amongst the treasure. The treasure is the conditions that bring about the miracles. And I'm learning this firsthand in my life, because my life is far from perfect, far from perfect. And I'm starting to realize that I couldn't be more delighted that it's far from perfect, because it shows me that there's still so much more to come. And it shows me that it's probably going to be far from perfect for like the entire time that I'm here, because as long as I'm here, there's going to be more to come and there's going to be more to unfold. So I'm learning to relax and look at my conditions as the perfect place for what I want to come into fruition, versus it not being here. Is this making sense? Is this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and also, you know what I'm seeing is that if you look at it from God's perspective, right? God's like, everything, everything that comes into your experience is a part of the miracle that is unfolding, right? And no matter what it looks like, it's all a setup for the miracle that God wants to perform, right? Through you, for you. And I know in my very bones that God wants to perform miracles through us and for us. Because really, that's what people pay attention to. That's what excites people, right? Gets their attention. And it makes them see what is possible. And if we look at everything that we are going through, everything, even the obstacles and all of that, as part of the unfolding of the miracle that the world needs through us, all for the glory of God, all for the glory of love. I think it will really make things a whole lot more truthful and also exciting. I have to check. I think my cat just went out the window.
No problem. And I wish that I could just pick up what you were saying and carry on with it, but I cannot because I'm not quite exactly sure where you're going with it. But that is quite all right.
All right. No, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that.
I was just saying I would love to take what you were saying and expand on it, but I don't know quite where you're going with it. So I'm going to let you come back and complete the thought.
Oh, no, that's, I mean, if you look at it from, through God's eyes, like you said, miracles on the way, right? And all of this is
here.
All of it's just a setup. And if you didn't, like you said, if you didn't need a miracle, then a miracle wouldn't happen. And then God's purpose would not be fulfilled because God wants to, glorify the love in this world, because that's what the whole, experiment of being these divine humans is about, is realizing, the potential of love.
I'm writing this down. First, you transform. And realize the treasure.
And it's not
the
even
treasure
that
of you, the treasure of just being.
Yeah,
and then your
it's
life
not even that you're working actually to transform. It just happens.
Right.
It's inevitable. It happens if you're applying these truths.
And let's say this for clarification's sake as well, because I think this is nudging at your heart as well. When we say transform, when we say change, we don't mean become what you're not yet.
Mm-hmm.
What we mean is transform and change back to a truer expression of yourself. You came into this world fully intact with all of your wholeness, so much so that you didn't have to make anything happen in order to get your needs met.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you use your voice, you use your body, right? To indicate, to attract the help that you needed, yes. But you didn't wake up early, work out, get everything going in your day to make sure that life unfolded and that your needs were met. Your needs were met. From that moment on, society and people, even the most well-meaning people who love you so, so much, have separated you from your whole completeness and allowed you to start to believe that you don't have everything that you need, that you're not fully equipped, that you don't hold all the answers. And in fact, you need a lot of guidance, a lot of support, and you're doing it all wrong.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So there's a part of you, of your soul, of your internal self, that is still and has been all along fully aware that it knows what the heck it's doing and what it's here for. And I dare say that it's that part of your knowingness, of your true limitless, fully expressed wholeness, that is getting so agitated with all these thoughts and beliefs and actions that are otherwise, that act as otherwise, that you engage in, that act as otherwise, that other people partake in, that act as otherwise. That's why whenever they say crappy stuff, it hurts. And that's when you think crappy stuff, it hurts. It's because they're all just not true.
Mm-hmm.
So shift it all out, sift it all out, let it all just fall away. And what you're left in the end is a whole complete being that knows what they're doing, came here for a reason, has skills beyond belief. They're just not going to look identical to what everybody else's skills look like or another person's skills look like. And it cannot be replicated, cannot be taught, it cannot be put in you. However, we can work together to evoke more, to bring it out, to show more efficient ways for doing things. And when we can realize or start to pretend or act or play around with or be a spiritual scientist in our own life and experiment with the thought, what if? everything that Crissy just said is true? What if I came in knowing everything and am fully equipped? And when I say knowing everything, perhaps I mean being able to just pull it up on your own. And if not, being able to know how to engage with the other resources to be able to know everything, right? So
And
either you
also,
can do it or
also trusting that you know exactly what you need to know.
yes.
You
And
know.
if you haven't experimented with life in this way, how can you even be so certain that the way that you're doing things is right, is the
Mhm.
best way? And if you're not wild about the results that you keep having and the experience that you keep having, going about it the way that you've been going about it, I believe it's worthwhile to experiment, at least give yourself 30 days to try it on for size. I personally took like 30 minutes. It did not take me long to be sold. Now, that doesn't mean I just ran headfirst, stripped off all of my untruths and just, completely exposed myself to the world. No, you're meeting Joy and I 10 years, 10 plus years into our friendship and our relationship of us being committed, of having these realizations, of not even knowing that this is what we were doing. We were
Mhm.
just like, and we just kind of blindly stumbled and fell forward in our own lives and our own integration of these concepts and beliefs and our own untangling and undoing and unraveling, to the point that now we can say, oh, well, yeah, whenever shit happens, that's just a blessing in your life. Can't you just see that's a miracle on its way? It's kind of easier for us to say that because we've reconditioned ourselves enough to think in this way. And quite frankly,
Also, because that's how we experience it. I mean,
yes,
because we have proof. We have
yes.
10 years of proof.
And I would say that we conditioned ourselves to think this way, but really we just unconditioned ourselves
Mhm.
from believing anything other than everything's okay. This is a divine experience. We're a divine being and divinity has our back. And from that place, even though we didn't say it that way a decade ago, that's how we've been living moving forward. So it's not about changing yourself or transforming yourself or like conditioning and disciplining yourself and getting yourself to do something. It's about understanding that when you approach life in this true way, in this alignment of truth, you naturally are this way, and anything that is not like it will begin to fall away. And how it falls away is the disruption of life as you know it, so that you can
Mhm.
get in touch with and start to see and recognize these things that aren't true to you. That's why they feel like shit, so that you can just let them go,
And
so
I
you can just let
really,
them be.
what just came to me is a really like a powerful accelerant, like as in gasoline on a fire, for this process is your desire.
Mm,
You know, how much do you want it? Are you willing, literally, to devote your whole life to it?
all of it.
Uh, yes.
Are you willing to risk your marriage? Are you willing to risk your friendships and relationships?
Mhm.
Are you willing to risk your job? Because if you're not living true to yourself in the way that you devote the most of your time and energy throughout your days, hello, dissatisfaction and non-fulfillment and a lot of unhealthy addictions, trying to
Yeah.
get an experience of yourself that you're not cultivating by this denial of yourself. That's why I think
Mhm.
passionless employment is such a problem and an epidemic. We could do a whole talk on that sometime. And why I also believe that all of us are born entrepreneurs. It's just that idea of entrepreneurship and business ownership and blessing others with your gifts in exchange for your needs and resources, everything you need being met. Why that idea has been so greatly perverted, a lot of us are out of touch with that these are actually just us being ourselves expressed in this world.
Mhm.
And when we can stop trying to do it all the right way and just learn to be, which sounds so simple and so hard at the same time, that in that being state, guess what ends up happening? You show up, you follow through, you're excited, you're ignited, you share with others, you do all these things that you can't get yourself to do when you're forcing it from the outside. You eat better, you make better choices for yourself. Old habits all of a sudden are no longer a problem. And it has nothing to do with what you're doing outside. It has everything to do with how you are being and experiencing yourself on the inside. Because when you
Mhm.
experience yourself as a whole complete being on the inside, a lot of what you're reaching to externally becomes obsolete.
And it's really in the willingness to give up everything that you receive everything. It's that's a truth.
Absolutely. And I can say that
Mhm.
I have lived that in a number of different ways. If you're willing to give it up and lose it right then in the moment, one of two things typically happens. One, you lose it and you realize you never needed it,
Mhm.
or something better comes along and replaces it. The other thing that happens, and this one I find happens exponentially more often,
Mhm.
exponentially more often, like to the point that I'm kind of like, why do I ever even hesitate? I don't know why, but I still do. When you're willing to lose it, you don't have to. You don't have to. Nothing
Mhm.
happens. You get to keep it. And actually, you get what you really wanted more.
Mhm.
Anytime that I have been scared to speak a truth in my relationship, which is where I have some kind of really tight stranglehold of value and worth wrapped up in, and I've had to learn how to untangle myself so I can be autonomous and know that I hold value independent from my relationship, so that I can risk being truthful and honest. And what do I find on the other side? More of the partnership that I'm craving on the inside, that I'm
Mhm.
holding back my truth and trying to get. It's only through letting it out that I've realized, wow, nothing bad happened. Nothing bad happened. Nothing miraculous can happen either, as long as I'm holding it all back in. And as soon as I make peace within myself and I'm like, okay, I'm willing to face this. I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. I don't know what I'm going to be facing. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm going to just face it. 90% of the time, I never even have to face it, because it doesn't have to do with out here at all. It has to do with in here and clearing it
Mhm.
up within myself is what I believe. And then the 10% of time that I do have to face it, it's not that bad. I know what to do, or whatever I lose, if I do lose anything, something better always comes in, or it doesn't matter. And I just learned that, oh, I'm just attached in these places. That's it. That disruption is just my attachment. And the more that I can recognize that disruption is my attachment and a sign that I'm not living to my truth or aligned with the truths that I believe about the world. So I'm not delivering, or I'm not letting life deliver,
Mhm.
then that tweak always sets me free
Yeah.
every single time. And again, I even hear myself say this and I think to myself, well, then why am I still holding back in these 97 other ways in my life? But it's all a process. It's all a process, all in due time. And if I could just rip off the Band-Aid and face them all at once, I don't think that I'd be as effective of a teacher in helping people to navigate these more tumultuous, scary areas, because not everybody's going to do it. I had a lot of mentors in my life that were miraculous. They were amazing. And I could never live into what they were doing. So even when I tried to emulate them, there was still something filed away in the back of my head that says, girl, you're not ever going to do what she does, because I just wasn't that type of personality. So learning how to be more truthful and passive and take things at my own time, and to realize the beauty of that unfolding, and to be compassionate to myself no matter how much I'm doing or not doing. I think that's why I really like this idea that, oh, on the other side of this challenge is just going to be another challenge. So no matter how quickly I run forward or how long I take my time, we're going to get there. Um,
And here's another just I know we've got to wrap things up,
yeah.
but just another little marketing ploy for truth here is that for people that want to develop their intuition um, and to have more synchronicity in their life, to feel like they're in better communication with the universe and God and others, truth. I mean, if you're not, living in truth and you're living in, that other land, denial, you can't see truth. And that's what intuition is all about, and that's really what synchronicity is all about. It's it's this truthful communication, between you, yourself, and the universe and God and others. But yeah, and it begins with being truthful with yourself about yourself. And I tell you, one of the most fascinating things about my own transformation um, is this ability to see truth, um, both in myself, which makes life so much easier, really, because you don't spend, days, weeks, months, years, decades in denial where nothing gets done. In fact, you begin to like devolve. You really do, and you get you just cut all that out, all that wasted time, and you get on with what really really want to do, um, which is bring your gift to the world and shine.
Absolutely. I love it. Do we have more of this conversation to have
We
for
could,
the hero's journey? Is there another part to this, or is this the last piece?
well, really the last part, and I think we could definitely spend another hour or more talking about it. Um, is the next threshold really is,
Mm,
um, what happens when you know we've achieved this new level of consciousness, really,
mhm,
and what do we do with it?
mm. I love that.
You know, um, which is
Let's.
really it's just a more in-depth conversation about, um, why we're here, and I really truly believe we're all here uh, to become, um, fully participatory citizens of heaven, and to you know bring the so-called kingdom, into true manifestation here. What does that look like?
I love it.
Jesus, when he took the disciples up the mountain and had them experience heaven, they didn't want to come down. They didn't want to leave. And he said, but you have to. You have to come back down into the valley amongst the people. And this is, once you've crossed this threshold, that's your responsibility. So what does that look like? So I think it'd be fun to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's
Yeah.
a perfect way to bring this conversation full circle, because that'll give us a chance to really look at each part of this hero's journey again, and how to make it personal for us, and then what do we do with it, and how do we become not just move from the recognizing, now that we recognize that we're a hero in our own story, how can we use that to become a hero in somebody else's story, and to help to cultivate heroes from birth birthing themselves forth in their own lives from those that are around us and among us, and the power and the impact that embodying this has on the world around us. So definitely come back for part 5. It'll probably be the conclusion of this series, and we've been doing this on the last Thursday of the month, and I know last Thursday of next month is November, is Thanksgiving. So perhaps we'll do the Thursday before, or maybe move it to the first Thursday in December, since it'll kind of be in between the holidays. I think that these conversations are great to have going into the holidays, because it is a great opportunity to remind yourself you are not the victim of your circumstance. You are the hero of your journey, and nobody should be coming to rescue you except for you, or nobody is going to come rescue you except for
Mm-hmm.
you. And I would say that for now, take time to reflect over this transformation, and how it is not the transformation of you evolving into something that you're not, but really how it's an evolution back to restoring who you actually are in a fuller capacity within yourself first, and how that transformation helps to unlock the treasure that you are within yourself first, And then that allows you to bring this transformation outwardly, because it took the changes that I committed to within myself, laid the groundwork for the changes that started to show outwardly. And as I settled within myself, it really, I mean, quite literally has been like an inside out job for me. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I have lived these truths and started to embody these truths so much that they have embodied me by changing my physical outward appearance. I have struggled with being overweight the majority of my life, like from the fourth grade on was an overweight experience for me. So I grew up believing that it was going to be a lifetime struggle, and it was a lifetime struggle for me until it wasn't. And now I see this woman in the mirror and I'm like, oh, well, that's Crissy. And I see who I was before. And I was like, where's Crissy? Because she's not in all of that, or at least not as fully as what I see her now. So for me, that change and transformation on the inside that got me to the point that I could take or leave having this kind of body. I didn't need it anymore. It wasn't even a desire for me anymore. I just wanted to be me as fully
Mm-hmm.
expressed as possible. And come to find out, me fully expressed is not 60 pounds overweight and hasn't been an issue for the last couple of years since living into it. So this shift that's happened on the inside took over my body, and now it's infiltrating my life, and it's starting to permeate outward. And I'm seeing this amazing effect in the impact that I'm having in the lives of others and the way that life is showing up for me. But I had to learn how to not do it all myself and allow my truth to come together with this bigger truth, allow this transformation, unlock the treasure within me. And now it's transforming the world around me, and it's bringing more treasure around me. And even when it's not bringing, the gems and the pirates booty that we think about whenever we think about treasure, I can see how I'm surrounded by treasure and how this life is a treasure, and just being a part of it is a gift. And in those moments that it doesn't feel like it, where I don't feel like the hero, where I want somebody to come along and rescue me, I have this truth to fall back on within myself and to realign my life with. And then guess what? It becomes easier. It becomes breathable. It becomes liberating, and I have options again, and I can move again. And the more that I do it, the more fluid I become. And it's worth crossing that threshold, that actual threshold of walking amongst your day-to-day life as you have known it, but experiencing it like you have never experienced it before.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that knows that this little limbo period is temporary, because pretty soon everything's going to be flooding in so quickly and manifesting so fast, because my level of belief, my level of commitment just deepens and deepens and deepens, that I'm kind of savoring this. And I'm already kind of feeling like one day I'm going to miss this, where everything's not perfect, but yet miracles pop up left and right all the time because it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a real magical place to step into. And we invite you to do it. And we're going to be the first to tell you it's an inside job. We can't do it for you. But once you come inside, we're so happy to meet you here, and we revel in it, and we love connecting with other individuals that are playing within the same space. So take the journey, start it over from the beginning so that you can understand each piece of the puzzle along the way. It's been an amazing honor to have this conversation with you, Joy, and to share it with all of you that are watching in replay. And any final thoughts before we say farewell for now?
No, just it's commitment and surrender too. And I think the commitment is the willpower, and surrender is the faith. It's the human willpower that we have to apply to it, but the surrender is the divine grace that makes it all possible. And makes it happen, really.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Commitment is the willpower, or the commitment is the willpower, and surrender is the faith. And yes, that's one of the things that I definitely go back to over and over again is, do I believe this or do I not? And if I believe it, then how am I going to move forward? And that step forward is 100% faith in action, which is surrender embodied. And on the other side, I always learn something more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as long as we're learning something more, there's always a treasure to be found, right?
Exactly.
Well, I love you, Joy. I love
I
all of
love
you that are
you.
watching. Be sure to subscribe. If you're watching this, you should probably be watching this on the YouTube channel. So subscribe so you can catch the next one. And drop some comments below. Have you recognized, have you been following along on this hero's journey? Can you relate to what we are talking about with this transformation and treasure conversation? And how has this journey been for you? We'd love to know any tips, any thing that you do to recommit or help you to align more to your truth or live it more fully out loud. And what does that mean to you? We'd love to continue this conversation, and we look forward to joining you again next month. We'll keep you posted on the date for sure. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Great. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.